Welcome to week 5 here at House of Horns. It's the Rams and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Gilbert Manzano, Rams beat reporter for the OC Register LA Daily News. And as always, joining me, Victor, the producer, Victor Corona, Victor Javier Corona, all the names, the titles. And Victor, I'm still a little tired from Monday Night Football. Hopefully, you can't tell, but maybe my voice is too loud right now, too animated. You can't even tell. But it was a bad game for the Rams of Monday Night Football. So we're moving on to week 5 here at House of Horns. Again, it's the Rams hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Victor, how are you doing?
I'm doing better than that banged up Rams offensive line, but we'll get to that as we preview this matchup. But no, I'm doing well. I'm glad you got back okay. I'm sure the short week kind of messed everything up for us. So we're back on here and we're happy to be previewing this great matchup. I think it's going to be a way better performance for the Rams.
Yeah,
I don't know how you're seeing that.
yeah. I don't want to get fully into my thoughts just yet, but it was an ugly game for the Rams, and it was a reminder that okay, this offensive line is certainly a problem, and when you face really good pass rushers, elite ones, not like the ones in Atlanta and Arizona, I'm talking about the ones in San Francisco and the ones in Dallas, it could be a nightmare matchup. But we'll get into it. But I'll start with this because it was a bad game. Let's keep it real on the Monday Night Football. But I got to see a good friend of mine, Tyler Dragon, NFL reporter of USA Today. He was out there at Levi Stadium, and I was like, hey, Tyler, I know you used to cover the Cowboys. I know you cover the whole league now. You're big time. You're a national reporter, but I need somebody to jump on House of Horns to give me a point of view of the Dallas Cowboys. And he gladly agreed, Victor. So we're gonna get into that interview in a bit. But the best part about having this guest, usually we like the guest to focus on the opposing team. But Tyler has been at 3 out of the 4 games for the Rams this year. So he knows the Rams very well. And I think the listeners of House of Horns are going to like the kind of point of view of the Rams and the Cowboys from Tyler, because that was a really fun interview.
I don't know if they're gonna like his point of view, but as he's gonna point out, there's some holes in this Rams team, and I think he kind of talks about some of the stuff that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, especially in their losses, some of the struggles they've had, and he does a great job of pointing those things out. So you want to stay tuned for Tyler
Yeah.
to give you guys the whole breakdown on the Rams as well. Usually we get just the opposing team, but this time because he's been covering, like you said, some of these games for the Rams, we get that perspective as well. So that was great to get that from him.
Yeah, and Tyler keeps it real, and he's covering all 32 teams. He has to make sources and be nice with people, but no, he's keeping it real on both sides, Cowboys and the Rams. But before we get to the Tyler Dragon interview, what a great last name, by the way, Victor, the
Yeah, I
Dragon.
know, right?
It reminds me of that episode of Friends where Joey's like working at the kitchen with Monica, and he wants to be called Dragon. So I always think about that. I don't know why. It's pretty random, but it's a funny episode. He's Dragon, but it's Joey.
Uh,
Anyways, before we get to the news and notes in the interview, I want to remind people about the giveaway. We have an Aaron Donald T-shirt, the Blitz T-shirt. If you have seen it and you're just too shy to leave a question, don't be shy, because the only 2 requirements to get this Aaron Donald T-shirt: subscribe to House of Horns, and then 2, leave a question about the games, because uh, we're trying to get to 250 subscribers. I think we're, last time I checked, 165 range. So still plenty of time to enter the contest. So the faster you guys subscribe, the more we'll get there to 250. But I want people to be engaged and ask questions. So if you see that video on House of Horns, look for it, the Aaron Donald T-shirt giveaway. Comment a question under that, or this video. I'm gonna make it easier. This video right here, ask a question, or any video on House of Horns. Should I just extend it, Victor? Any video on House of Horns, just make sure you subscribe and leave a comment with a question on one of the upcoming games. It could be this game against the Cowboys or next week against the Panthers. Heck, even a question about the bye week. I don't know. We just want engagement here at House of Horns, and it's a really cool T-shirt for Aaron Donald on the Blitz package.
no, and yes, please get on that. I mean, it's a great thing that we're doing. I mean, as a thank you for being a subscriber, checking us out. But one more thing, I know we have to get
Yeah.
into your news and notes, but I wanted to just some friendly reminders here. We have the Compass on the Beat show that came out today as we're recording. We have a poll for you guys. If you're a big fan of pop culture, we did a poll on the best heist movies. Gilberto went with The Italian Job. I went with Ocean's 13. You have Fernando with who did he go with? I'm like
The
drawing a
town.
blank. Huh?
The town.
Yeah, the town, and then you had Dan and Dago with Heat. So yeah, like we had a great show. I mean, lots of fun there. If you want to go check that out, you also have What's Up Bulls with Fernando and Dan and Dago. They cover the Chargers. They got you covered there. And then Combat Compas, the guys have you covered. What do you guys have coming up there, Gilbert?
Yeah, I think Fernando is going to give us a breakdown of the WWE pay per view. So if you like WWE, you like boxing, you like MMA, check us out at Combat Compas. But also really check out Compas on the Beat. I know most of you guys are Rams fans if you're listening to House of Horns, and that's great. But you probably like the whole league, the entire league, the landscape of the NFL. And that's what we do on Combos on the Beat, with you, Victor, with Fernando Ramirez and Dan Dago. All four of us have funny banter, but some good analysis every now and then, right? So definitely check that out. But yeah, no, I'm done promoting. I'm ready for some news and notes, Victor.
All right. I know there wasn't much going on today as we were talking right before we got on. You told me that there wasn't much of a practice today, but
Yeah.
what do you have for us?
Yeah, so there was no practice. I think because it was a long week last week. Now they're going into a short week with the Monday Night Football schedule. So they're trying to get that one day off back. Every week Tuesday's a day off, recovery day for the players. So they didn't really get that yesterday because they're watching film and probably getting yelled at for the game in Santa Clara. So technically Wednesday was a day off, but sort of a walkthrough. So I didn't get to see the injured players like a Brian Allen or a Kobe Durant or Jordan Fuller. These guys technically didn't practice, but actually, I'll start with that. There was more injuries. I know, bummer for the Rams fans and the viewers of House of Horns. Coleman Shelton, the starting right guard who was filling in at center for for Brian Allen, has a high ankle sprain. Will be out 4 to 6 weeks. That's not good. And then Brian Allen supposedly is close to coming back, but not really. So I don't think he'll be back this week. So uh, hopefully you guys are used to Jeremiah Coloni. I think that's his last name. Jeremiah, who got a lot of praise from people for stepping in last minute and just doing his job. I know at this point, that's all people want is just do your job and don't be terrible. And they
Yeah.
really praise Jeremiah Coloni. So it could be positive speak because it is a bad situation, but they feel comfortable with him. And then the other one was Jordan Fuller. He will be out 2 to 4 weeks with the hamstring injury. They have not told us if it's the same hamstring injury from the game he missed in Arizona. And he's had some injuries to deal with in the past, so it's starting to catch up to Jordan Fuller. So again, a very thin secondary because I don't know if Kobe Durant will be ready. Obviously, Troy Hill's not ready; he's in the IR. Maybe David Long will be available. And then I think David Edwards might be close to coming back. He's in the concussion protocol. He had that scare last week where he reported symptoms, but it's a long list of injuries here. I know people who follow the Sean McVay era for the Rams are not used to this because they usually are a healthy team, but not this year. And then the other big thing for the news here is the Bobby Wagner tackle. I should have started the show with the Bobby Wagner tackle on the fan because that was a highlight of the game. It went viral, that clip there. Bobby Wagner laid out a fan who was streaking on the field, or a protester with a pink smoke bomb, whatever. It was a crazy hit, went viral. But there was another update to the story. The fan who was streaking filed the police report against Bobby Wagner to the city of Santa Clara, the police department, saying whatever he was. I don't know. He was assaulted. I don't know why he would try to do a police report. I think it's more about getting more attention on whatever he's
Exactly.
protesting, because I don't see how you have a case when you're the one breaking the rules, breaking the law. When you're on the field, you deserve to be hit by either the security guard or the player. So I don't know if he has a case there, but we're talking about it here. And Bobby Wagner said, "Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm more concerned about the security guard who got hurt." So Yeah, that was an interesting little side note there, Victor. But that is news and notes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Wait, so the security guard, did he actually tear his ACL chasing the? Because I thought it was a joke.
I'm not sure, but Bobby Wagner sounded like the security guard got hurt, and he was like, "That's who I'm concerned about." So, yeah, they were chasing this guy for a while, and that's why Bobby Wagner had to step in. He had to help out,
Oh no!
So, uh, I don't think he really cares about what his fans trying to do, but yeah, it
Oh
sounds like
no!
the security guard got hurt for reals.
No, I mean, once you go to TMZ, you kind of know. I mean, if TMZ is the one who's putting it out there, you know what it's for. So it's
Yeah,
for publicity, and he's gonna get his 5 minutes, which is what he wants to promote whatever it was that he was running out there
yeah.
for.
Honestly, we
So
don't even know what he's promoting. I don't even know the guy's name, so it's not working for him. That's a good news.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know,
Whatever it
but
is, I don't know, but there's a better way
yeah,
to promote your cause, whatever it is.
yeah, man, just start a podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you want, don't jump on this one. We don't want you on House of Horns or Bobby Wagner's podcast, whatever he has. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, start a podcast. It's not that hard to do. We're doing it here, Victor, and make sure to
exactly.
subscribe and enter that Aaron Donald giveaway. But Victor, I think we're ready for the Dragon, right? Tyler Dragon, NFL reporter for USA Today, national reporter. I hope you guys are ready because he's gonna keep it real. Let's get to that interview right now with Tyler Dragon. Victor, this next guest is very special to me. Former coworker at NFL.com. We go way back, and he just told me a great story about the airport too. I saw him at Levi Stadium for that Monday Night Football game between the Rams and the 49ers. Of course, I'm talking about Tyler Dragon, NFL reporter of USA Today. Tyler, I felt like that story was so great. You have to say here on the podcast. First of all, welcome to House of Horns. You were at COMPAS on the beat, now you're here. I appreciate your time as always. But Tyler, how did you make it to the flight on time after you overslept? Because I feel like it's like one of the greatest stories in airport history.
Yeah, it's definitely a record on my book, and by the grace of God, I made a flight. My flight was at 7:15 a.m. I was flying out of San Jose. I missed my alarm, overslept. I woke up at 6:30 and still managed to make my 7:15 flight. I had, don't worry, everybody. I brushed my teeth and got dressed and everything, but I was quick. It took me about 20 minutes to do all that. And then I got in an Uber. I got to the airport at about 6:50, 6:55-ish. And from that point on, like, I just sped through the security line. There was nobody in the security line. And then I kid you not, I didn't tell you this either, Gilbert. My gate was the second to last gate at the airport. There are 35 gates at the airport. My gate was 34. I ran. I was like O.J. Simpson in a Hertz commercial back in the day, or Enterprise, whatever it was. I was running through the airport, all drenched, sweaty, made my 7:15 flight. I would advise nobody ever to do that. Trust me, you would probably miss your flight. If that happened to me 100 more times, I would probably miss my flight at least 99 of those times. So by the grace of God, I made my flight. I'm back home. But next time I'm flying and traveling, I'm going to make sure I set up a couple of alarms.
Well, the best thing, Tyler, that you told me is like you didn't even get a middle seat, and you got the early bird on Southwest. So that means you go in earlier on the plane. So and then you were last or second to last. And all I could picture you, man, you're like Debo Samuel out there in the open space breaking
Yeah.
tackles through the airport.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was running by people, maneuvering by people. A mix between Debo Samuel and Barry Sanders a little bit, I like to say.
Well, yeah, if you made it on time, I definitely believe it. And you used to play, I want to say, or football at UCLA, or was it track, or both?
Yeah, track and field. But I
Look at
was
that.
I was a fullback at Howard University, so I do have a little bit of football experience.
See, I shouldn't be surprised at all, Tyler. But thank you for being on the podcast. I know you and I are both tired from that Monday Night Football game. It kind of just sets everything back throughout the week. But we have you here for Cowboys talk because you used to cover them, and also you're a national reporter for USA Today. I love your whole coverage of the league. And I'm guessing that's also a grind. Maybe another story for a different day. But Tyler, before we get to the Cowboys, I just want to get your thoughts because you were there to watch the Rams, and you've been there before multiple times this season and even last season. What the heck is going on with this offense, Matthew Stafford, and the one-man show with Cooper Kupp?
So, I was at the Super Bowl when the Rams beat the Bengals. And even though they won that game, there were a few things that concerned me that have really carried over to this season. On offense, one, it was the over reliance on Cooper Kupp. And then on defense, it was Aaron Donald or bust. Jalen Ramsey obviously got beat a lot in that Super Bowl game, and that has carried over, trickled into this season, especially that first game. And then, without Aaron Donald, the Bengals are Super Bowl champions. And really, those same issues kind of carried over until that 49ers game, and they reared their ugly head because Cooper Kupp targeted 19 times against the 49ers, 14 receptions. No other receiver had more than 2 catches. And really, on defense, when Aaron Donald isn't wreaking havoc and being the best player on the field, there aren't really any more playmakers to go with that. It's like Aaron Donald has to be a hero, or this Rams defense looks average at best. And, I don't want to single out Jalen Ramsey again, but on that long Deebo Samuel catch and run, he was right there in position to tackle him and really had a terrible effort, horrible tackling for him and trying to tackle him. And, he's good in coverage, but he's taken a step back as far as possibly being the best corner in the NFL. I still do think he's a top 5 corner, but he's taken a step back. And then their front seven, if Aaron Donald is a rushing a passer, who's rushing? I mean, Leonard Floyd, I've talked to him in the locker room. He's not having the season that he's had before. None of the other front 7 players are playing good rushing and passer. Bobby Wagner, he's still a tackling machine, but I don't think to this point of the season he's had the overall impact that he would have hoped, or the Rams would have hoped. And this team is really, I won't call it a Super Bowl hangover, but it's a sluggish start by their standards. 2-2 record. I'm not really impressed about how they have won some of their games. We were both at the Cardinals game as well. They didn't look like world beaters beating the Cardinals. And this past Monday night, I mean, it was really a bad effort on both sides of the ball. Having a goose egg in the red zone, they were terrible in that area. They were terrible tackling. It was just a litany of issues that I saw from the Los Angeles Rams in that Monday night loss.
Yeah, Tyler, a lot of great points, and especially because a lot of points that Victor has made on the podcast that they're very top heavy. You need stars to make plays, and when they don't, it's a lot of bad things. But Tyler, it's really bad when you just touched on maybe 20 issues right now, Tyler, and one of them was not the offensive line. The offensive line is very bad. They're depleted, a bunch of injuries. So, and that way, I would transition to the Cowboys now. They went from Nick Bosa and all the guys of 49ers to not having to face Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and this Cowboys defense. How has this Cowboys defense looked to you so far to start the year?
The Cowboys have one of the best defenses in all of football, and that pass rush might be the best in the NFL. They lead the league in pressures entering Week 5. They have 15 sacks, which is second in the NFL. Micah Parsons is going to be in the running for defensive player of the year. DeMarcus Lawrence is having a really good season as well. We all know about Diggs in the defensive backfield. So, this Cowboys team, I know Cooper Rush gets a lot of praise, but this defense is really why they have been winning games. Cooper Rush hasn't been making any mistakes, hasn't turned over the football, but they're really winning games because of their defense, primarily their front 7 and their pass rush.
Tyler, I wanted to ask you, talking about the defense, how is Dan Quinn using Micah Parsons? Is he using them differently with some of the linebackers they brought in?
Yeah, he's moving him all over the field. He's playing on the edge at defensive end. He's playing some at middle linebacker. He's playing some at weak side linebacker. And sometimes they're even, doing some stunts where he's rushing in the middle in the A gap or the B gap. So, they're really, utilizing his versatility. And, they're doing the right job of doing that because he is turning into arguably the best pass rusher in football.
And how has Dan Quinn's defense changed from what he used to coach when he was at Seattle, that cover 3, to what he's implemented here with the Cowboys?
Mm-hmm. Well, he still utilizes a cover 3 defense. That's a really good question. But at this point, with the Cowboys personnel, it's a lot different than what they had in Seattle. Seattle had the Legion of Boom. The Cowboys, their secondary is nowhere near the Legion of Boom, but their front seven, they have a really good front seven, primarily because of the playmaking ability of DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. So, I really like, they do run that cover 3 defense. They have a ball hawking cornerback in Diggs, but they really rely on their pressure up front because they have players that can really get after the quarterback and make them under duress.
I got one more defensive question for you, and it has to do with Trayvon Diggs. I saw Torrey Smith tweeted out that he's a top 3 DB right now. Is he for you? And who would be your top 3? And what have you seen from him that's different? Because he already has 16 career interceptions, 2 back to back, in one in each game back to back the last 2 games.
Wow, that's a good question. I wouldn't say he's top 3 because although he makes really big plays and, he's a ball hawking cornerback, he does give up some plays too. He's kind of a boom or bust cornerback. When I look across the league, even though I talked about Ramsey, I still like him. I like, J.C. Jackson from the Chargers. I like Alexander from, Packers. So there are a lot of cornerbacks who I would probably give the edge over Diggs, but Diggs is in the conversation definitely as a top 5 cornerback right now.
Yeah, just for reference, he said that his top 3 were Patrick Surtain, Darius Slay, and then Trayvon Diggs. So,
okay, yeah, I would probably have Darius Slay around top 8-ish. Surtain, Patrick Surtain is definitely up there. There are a lot of good cornerbacks in this league, but the thing is with the league today, it's a pass happy league, so every cornerback gets beat. Every single one. The days of Deion Sanders are not there. The days of Revis Island aren't there. I mean, nobody is on that level. Nobody's on Deion's level. And when Revis was in his heyday, nobody is still on Revis's level either.
Yeah, Tyler, it's a different game. It's very pass heavy, and like you mentioned, Jalen Ramsey's been caught multiple times this year. But you got to make that tackle, right? Open space.
Yeah, you got to make that tackle.
It's deep with it. It's tough, man. But going back to the offense and Cooper Rush, and it's kind of a nice, not for the Cowboys, but for us who like entertainment and drama. It's a quarterback controversy that's brewing. Dak Prescott's trying to come back. I don't think he might be ready for this Rams game. But what are you feeling on this quarterback battle or controversy that we're heading towards, Tyler? Should it be Cooper Rush's team? Should it go back to Dak Prescott? Like you mentioned, maybe Cooper's just doing his job and being efficient and managing the game, and you're in a different level when you get Dak Prescott on the field. How you feel about this quarterback controversy, or who should be the guy to start for the Cowboys?
Well, I'm going to play in his last name. Dak Prescott should not rush back. Now, I will say this. Now, Cooper Rush, he's the first player in NFL history to win his first 4 starts and have a 90-plus quarterback passer rating in those starts as well. And he's managed the game well, but I really like how the Cowboys, they really haven't changed their offense with him at quarterback. They're running pretty much the same type of plays. And I'm really impressed with his ability to extend plays with his legs. He's not, the scrambling type of quarterback, but he gets, outside of the pocket and makes plays. He did that against the Commanders in last week's win. But, when I look at both the quarterbacks, Dak Prescott is still a better quarterback. There's no quarterback controversy. Dak Prescott, he's more athletic. He gives you a wide range of different options as a quarterback. He's can get out of the pocket, even though I said Cooper Rush can too, but a little bit better. And he has just his experience level that can't be taught. And Dak Prescott has experience, but Cooper Rush has given the Cowboys the ability to keep Dak Prescott on the shelf until he's 100% healthy, because nobody had the Cowboys going 3-0 with Cooper Rush at quarterback. And that's a luxury. Now you don't have to rush Dak Prescott back. You can keep him on ice until that, thumb injury is 100% healed, and then trot him out there. Because when I look at the Cowboys, I don't have them. You're probably going to ask me, but I don't have them beating the Rams this week. then they play the Eagles in Philadelphia the next week. That I would not trot Dak Prescott out there from a serious injury against the Philadelphia Eagles, who will probably be undefeated because they play the Cardinals this coming week. And then maybe that Lions game. It's a home game in Dallas. So I kind of like Dak Prescott coming back then from his injury.
Tyler, you're so efficient, man. Like the way you moved in the airport, you're answering all the questions, gave us a prediction already. I don't need to ask you about a prediction. But last question, because I told you 15 minutes. I know you're tired from that flight and rushing people at the airport. But the one I'm curious about is CeeDee Lamb, and you mentioned Jalen Ramsey, so that would be a good little matchup there for those guys. And I feel like CeeDee's set up his game ever since Cooper Rush got onto the field. I don't know if it's like a coincidence or what happened with CeeDee, but he's really kind of raised that game. He had that one bad drop on Monday Night Football, but made up for it with a great catch after that. And also another, good, wide receiver matchup. I know you're talking about rankings on cornerbacks, but, Cooper Kupp is on a different level. But CeeDee Lamb, I feel like he's getting closer to being an elite wide receiver. How do you feel about him so far?
Yeah, I really like what I've seen from CeeDee Lamb this season. But really, the Cowboys, their receiving core, like Michael Gallup, has played well. So, when I look at the Cowboys, it's their offensive line. If their offensive line can, be efficient and protect Cooper Rush, and if, they can get their running game going, Tony Pollard has looked really good. He's a lot more spry than Ezekiel Elliott. So they really set up the run game, and then, their run game kind of sets up the pass. But that CeeDee Lamb, when they played against the New York Giants, that was kind of his coming out party, especially that one particular drive where he capped it off with a touchdown. So I like what I see from him, and that's going to be a really good matchup versus Jalen Ramsey. But again, you got to worry about the other players too. Michael Gallup, they have, Noah Brown has played well this season. I believe he's questionable for this week's game, but the Cowboys, they have a pretty good receiving corps.
Tyler, thank you for the time and that great insight. And again, I really appreciate the time because you've been on COMPAS on the Beat, now here at House of Horns. You're one of my favorite guests to have on. But I want to return the favor and plug your podcast. Let us know where we could, hear that.
Well, I appreciate that. If you ever want me on House of Horns again, I'll always be free to come on your show. But yeah, you can listen to my podcast. It's a football podcast. You can download it wherever you download, your podcast, and you can check it out on usatoday.com as well.
Tyler, again, thank you for the time and great last name. Tyler the Dragon was moving through the airport in San Jose, leaving people in the dust. Thank you for the time.
Thanks for having me on.
Victor, like we mentioned, that was a real interview. There was no, pom-poms there. There was no fluff. It was all authentic from Tyler Dragon. And I think that's what people want to hear. I think if you're a legit fan of the Rams, you want people to tell you the truth. You don't want to be fed the positive spin. So yeah, people know it's bad, but it's a lot of football left, and it should be an interesting matchup. So shout out to Tyler Dragon for the interview from the both point of views, the Cowboys and the Rams. Now, Victor, let's move on because we do have a couple people who asked questions for the giveaway for the Aaron Donald t-shirt. People asked questions, they entered, they're officially in, subscribers of House of Horns. So let me show the listeners or the viewers the benefit. You get the question, well, you get an answer. So we got two this week. We're moving up. Last week it was one question. Now we got two. Yeah. You take the second one. I'll take this first one here. And the first one is from Steve On. Steve, hopefully I'm not butchering your last name, but Steve, last name AHN. Steve On. He said, just sub. Thank you, by the way. Excited for a different voice in Rams YouTube. We're different voices here, Victor. So that's a good thing. And then the question is, do we see a trade or a big signing like last year with Von Miller or OBJ to help out this Rams team, because they need the help right now? And I guess to kind of answer that one, I don't know if I see anything out there, but hey, that name that you mentioned, OBJ, is still out there. That's all I can think of. Like you were mentioning, Victor, it's not easy to get an offensive lineman out there and go get an interior lineman to help you out at the guard spot. So I think it's big to go after OBJ, and I see Von Miller already trying to recruit him to Buffalo. That would not be good for the Rams. He had a visit with the Giants. Like I'm telling you, he's trying to flirt with everybody right now to get that value going on, which is good for him. But a couple concerns real quick. Uh, he just coming off the torn ACL in the Super Bowl, which is only like 9-10 months removed. You're gonna put all your faith on one player to bring you back on the guy who just tore his ACL. That's a lot of pressure on OBJ. I think the guy's still an explosive playmaker. He will help out with the explosive plays. That's a big ass, though. And then also, he doesn't play in the offensive line. He doesn't play in the secondary. There's a lot of issues with the team. He's not an edge rusher either. So, Victor, this actually might be a story for me this week. Is yes, OBJ will help, but he doesn't solve all the problems. So I think that's a good story for me to work on. And then the next question is from a good friend, Alonso Takanga. He's actually asking a lot of questions for us, and I'll give you this one, Victor. He said, has Matthew Stafford lost a step, or do the 49ers just make a lot of quarterbacks look like that?
Well, yeah, the 49ers are going to make a lot of quarterbacks look like that. I do want to see the 49ers play like a better offensive team, and we'll get more of that. Like they play the Broncos and some other things, but this is mostly about Matthew Stafford. I think we've kind of known since the offseason that there was something going on. Maybe him missing a lot of that offseason went into why we're seeing him not be as productive as we've seen him. I mean, he's had his first two back-to-back games without a touchdown. It also doesn't help, like we talked about with the offensive line. When you were talking about the offensive line, I mean, yeah, like you can bring in dudes. Like there was a guy on the Raiders practice squad, Billy Price, who just got picked up by the Cardinals, who might have done it because they have Hudson there, the former Raider, in as playing center. So they might have just taken Billy Price to get him away from the Rams picking him up. So, I mean, what they need is like you talked about. They need to pick up. They need to get their guys healthy. Guys like Van Jefferson would help someone like Stafford here, and then getting OBJ. But like you said, we don't know how he's gonna come off that injury. So that's also is going to be a problem. And I think the elbow is a problem for Stafford, and he's also taken a lot of hits. I mean, that's been his MO since he came into the league. I think he leads the league in since he came in pick sixes. He throws a lot of interceptions. You know what you're getting. I mean, he led you to the Super Bowl. Maybe that was it. It was the price you paid. I just don't understand why you paid him that much money and re-signed him when you really didn't need to. But I get it. He's your guy. You have to pay quarterbacks nowadays, and you can get out of contracts at any time. So I'll leave it at that.
No, it's a fair question because I think somebody asked him today, like, can you just evaluate yourself after 4 games after the first month of the season? He's like, I'm not gonna give you a full grade here, but like the game is to score touchdowns. We're not doing that now, so that kind of tells you that he knows he's not playing well. He has 4 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. They're averaging less than 18 points per game. This offense is not working right now, and I think Stafford will be the first one to tell you so. Yeah, good questions from Steve and Alonso. Ask questions, you'll get some answers here. But Victor, what do we have next? Is it a player
We got
matchup?
player matchups to watch. Let me get it started because we're both going to talk about the same matchup
Yeah.
here. So let me get it started. And our player matchup is going to be Jalen Ramsey against CD Lamb. And for me, it's Ramsey needs to take the challenge of covering Lamb. Like we've seen Ramsey be the playmaker. Like they play him off the ball, like whatever they need him. He The problem is that when they've gone up against guys like Stephon Diggs and like we saw last week against Deebo Samuel, those receivers, those alpha receivers have gone off, and at some point, as the second guy, the alpha guy on the Rams defense, you need to take it upon yourself and go to Raheem Morris and say, "Look, I'm going to lock that guy up." So that way, it frees up the rest of the guys to be able to do what we need to do to win this game. And for me, that's why it's a matchup. You need to somehow take CD Lamb out of this game because, as Tyler said, Noah Brown might be out. We don't know. He popped up with an injury. They have Michael Gallup as well that you have to take care of. So for me, this is the matchup to watch.
Yeah, no, that's a good point and a fair point because when you're decimated in the secondary, I think we're all focusing on the offensive line, but this secondary is also taking a massive hit there. And I get that Raheem Morris wants to have Jalen play that star role, and I think I asked Jalen about it maybe 2 weeks ago when the injury started happening. Like, does your role change? Like, no, I'm still do a little bit of everything. He moves around, and that's good and all, but your secondary is young, inexperienced. That was just a bad decision by Darion Kendrick, the rookie, to jump the route on Debo, because if you don't get that, you saw the results. So it was a gamble. So maybe it's Jalen covering Debo. He doesn't make mistakes like that. He's a smarter player, and you're getting paid $20 million a year. So at one point, it's nice being the versatile kind of star player, but go ask and lock down a guy, a defender. I know that's not the same case anymore in today's NFL, and Tyler brought that up. Like, you can't just be like, you're on my island kind of thing with Darrell Reeves and guys like that. It's a lot of zone heavy scheme. We all have different assignments on the different side of the field. But at some point, he's gonna be like, "Hey, CeeDee Lamb, that's their guy. Let me get him." I know there's no, Troy Hill, maybe no Kobe Durant, no Jordan Fuller. So yeah, help out. But real quick, I wanted to throw in another one on the player matchups, and it's still the same side of the ball, because I was just a little like, we're focusing so much on the offensive line, and I think maybe Tyler is what got me thinking, like, what else is out there? Because I'm focused on the offense, I'm focused on the offensive line, and this pass rush has been absent. Like, yeah, you got Aaron Donald, but what about the guys on the outside, the edges? Like, because we've discussed Von Miller trying to recruit OBJ, but they will probably want a Von Miller right now too to come back and help them, because Leonard Floyd is dealing with a banged up knee, and it looks like he's been quiet out there. Terrell Lewis has shown the flashes, but he's not finishing. He's not closing in and really making an impact in the game. And then Justin Hollins, we already knew he's not really a sack artist. He's more of an efficient, linebacker, a versatile linebacker, but he's not leaving an impact either. And Tack McKinley, by the way, the impact that these guys just left, Tack McKinley and Justin Hollins, a dispute on the sideline. That's all they did, because there was one quarterback hit, 0 sacks. And the one quarterback hit, you could probably guess the player who did that. It was when they left Aaron Donald wide open, and he got that. So other than that, it was a very quiet day for the pass rushers. And then I know they had some injuries with Tyron Smith, right, for the Cowboys, the left tackle. But this Tyler Smith guy, not to be confused with
The
Tyron
rookie.
Smith, yeah,
Yeah.
he's been doing well, and people were giving the Cowboys a lot of crap for drafting him in the first round. So, and they have Zach Martin, so this offensive line is still very good, but they need to start creating some pressures for the edge rushers group, because we can't be focused on the secondary. We can't be focused on the offensive line. They have not done their part either.
Yeah, before we get move on into X factors, one of the things that you brought up was that Tyler Smith, and one of the things I noticed watching that tape of the Cowboys and Commanders game. So it's still hard for me to say Commanders, and like I don't want to mess up and say the wrong thing. So, but they had Jason Peters playing guard because they like how good. And then I think his name is McGovern. Is his last name. He just got back from injury, so they're slowly starting to get their offensive line healthy too. The Cowboys are, so that's how, like, Jason Peters is a Hall of Fame left tackle, and they're moving him to guard right now because they're Tyler Smith has done really well as a left tackle so far.
And I'm glad you extended the segment, Victor, because I wanted to give the numbers here on the sacks for the Rams. Uh, Two teams have gotten 7 sacks against the Rams offensive line in 2 separate games for the season. The Rams only have 7 sacks themselves.
Oh.
And I think about everybody's different on the pressure stats. They all kind of view them differently. But I was just checking real quickly on Pro Football Reference. They have 13 pressures. So I think they're like dead last in that. So it's very subjective on the pressures, but the sacks tell you. And I asked Sean McVay about it earlier today. He's like, well, it's a tricky stat, but like, you want to be in the guy's face. You want to give him kind of a little nudge at the end, just be in their face. And he says he's seeing that. So far he's not freaking out, but the numbers are not good.
Yeah, no. I mean, you want pressures. He's right. And I've been having this debate with people about, do you want pressures or do you want sacks? And yeah, you want those pressures, but those the sexy stat is the sacks. So you know, yeah. So let's get to our X factors for this game. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, because I kind of want to piggyback off yours, but I'll make it quick. I think we should mention it.
No, no, no. Go ahead and use it. I mean, do what you need to do.
Okay. Well, I'll give you one for the Cowboys. Is Cooper Rush? Like, it's gonna be an interesting game because I don't think Dak Prescott is coming. So if he's efficient, he doesn't turn the ball over. That's gonna be the Cowboys X factor. Like that quarterback, he does his job because you saw what Jimmy G did. Just play smart, give it to your playmakers, and let the defense do the work. The Cowboys have a similar blueprint. So I think for them is Cooper Rush, but I just want to spend some time on Allen Robinson because he's starting to get some criticism because remember the first couple of weeks it was like, why aren't you guys scheming better? Why aren't you giving better plays? Why aren't you targeting the guy? Now it's like Allen Robinson's looking old. I think you brought this up, Victor, before. He's not getting separation. All you want to he wants is jump balls, and he's not doing everything else. He's not running the full route tree. And I'm trying to keep an eye on it just to see if it's like some life there. And I think there's the coverages have a say on it. The bad offensive line play, Stafford keying in on Cooper Kupp, and then just trying to give him targets at the end when the game is kind of over and forcing it in there. Like he had like his 4 targets at the end. Like, what are we doing now? So there's a whole lot of factors, but I think it is maybe it's a little too rough to call him washed up or saying old, but I think he needs to do a better job getting open, creating separation, and not just being this big X guy. Get open like Cooper Kupp, make it easier on your guy. But I still think it's more of the other things, like the bad offensive line play, the locking in the Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, the coverages, all that. So I'm not gonna criticize fully Allen Robinson, but it's on my radar. It might be an issue.
Yeah, no, and I think part of the reason that I wanted to focus, I for me it was more of picking out the other receivers as opposed to just Cooper Cup. Like I want to see the other guys, get some touches like Ben Skoranek, maybe like get Tutu Atwell going. Powell.
If he's active, he wasn't active last week.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I like some of the plays they've ran for Powell, like those the little runs for him, and so, like they're getting
Yeah.
that all went away against the Niners. I don't know what the game plan was, if it changed. Like they had the ball first, they drove down, but we still didn't see, like maybe give Allen Robinson some of those wide receiver screens. It was all to Cooper Cup. So for me, like we were talking about, like you were mentioning here, eh, include Allen Robinson, include Ben Skoranek, include the rest of the receivers. I think you need to be a little bit more balanced, especially against this. Like the front seven for the Cowboys is legit. Like that's where they get all their pressure. The way you can attack this defense is through their secondary. Outside of Trayvon Diggs is he's gonna try and take chances. If maybe do some double moves, maybe get some of the other guys involved there with Skoranek out of the backfield. But that for me, that's the X factor. You got to get those other receivers involved. You can't just make it a two you know receiver thing with just lock in on Cup and on Higby.
Yeah, and just be a little more creative. You're like Ufanga said, they were predictable. That's why he guessed on the screenplay. I know Sean Mcveigh was saying there he didn't want to run that look there. It was like, yeah, that was their man coverage. We did not want to go 2 by 2. I think it was he wanted to go 3 by 1, 3 on the right side to kind of just throw them off a little more. And they didn't do that. He wouldn't point the finger at Stafford today or like why if you said the play was wrong, who's at fault there? He's like, I want to move on. So uh he's saying they weren't predictable. It was more about a miscommunication on the play there for the pick six. But still, it feels predictable, right? It's a screenplay after screenplay, Cooper Cup to Tyler Higbee. So yeah, maybe people are trying to knock Robinson for not creating separation, but at least give the guy a chance. Throw him the ball. I'm not saying to force it and get interceptions because Stafford does that already.
Yeah.
Just make more of an effort to get him the ball early, get him in rhythm. And the whole thing with Brandon Powell that you're mentioning, it feels like it works 2 times out of the game and then just go away from it. Like it's just like
Yeah.
he's motioning back and forth, a lot of pre-motion and jet sweeps, and then like, oh, they stopped doing it. So
Yeah.
it's very strange, Vic.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I just, you gotta use those guys, man. You have them on the team. I get it. Like Stafford has, he's comfortable with those two guys, but Get the other guys involved. And this is on McVeigh, man. Like this is where you're the head coach. They're running your offense, and he needs to do a better job of making sure that those other guys are involved, because then you lose the rest of the guys, man. Like we've all been on a team, whether whatever it is in life, and when the two dudes are being singled out, like, and they're the ones getting all the focus, the rest of the team is like, bro, like, what about us,
Yeah,
So
definitely. Good point.
yeah. All right, let's get to keys to the game. Uh Go ahead and start us off, Gilbert. What do you
Yep.
got?
I've been saving it for this one because this is actually the most critical part of the game, and I'm mad at me. I'm mad at myself for not, I don't know. Let's just say the offensive line versus the defensive line of the Cowboys. Micah Parsons, the Marcus Lawrence, these guys could wreck the game, and that's what I'm mad about for myself for predicting the Rams to beat the Niners. I was like, Nick Bosa could single handedly wreck this game, but I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo, they have their own issues. I think the Rams offense will figure it out. They will at least, if it's a low scoring game, they at least have better shots than Jimmy Garoppolo. That's not the case because one guy can wreck a game for you, and that was Nick Bosa. Now add two guys, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons. Uh, yeah, it's a debate which defense is better, but it's a similar defense, Victor. So uh it's going to be a big problem, especially when, you know, you don't know what's going to happen at center. Jeremiah Colonian, yeah, he did well. He gutted out a performance last minute, but now have a full fourth quarters with Micah Parsons and these guys rushing at you. We don't know about David Edwards. That he's a quality left guard, but we don't know if he's going to play or not. And then you still have your right guard, Alaric Jackson, who's technically at the third string guard. And then your tackles have been shaky all year in Havenstein and Nopum. So this could be, if these guys are doing their job and creating pressure, that could give you another game with Stafford having 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and 10 points again. So I could definitely see that. And the key word that people were talking about a lot last week or Monday night was identity. What's this offensive identity? And they're saying we don't know what it is. Well, I could tell you what it is. You have a bad offensive line. You're not running the football, and you're going to hone in on Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, and you're going to throw maybe 1 or 2 interception from Stafford. That's the identity. Like, it keeps happening. Sorry, I'm frustrated, but I'm like, okay, you got to make that not be your identity. Like, that's why I'm like, I felt like I gave them a game last week. Like, you know what? Maybe it's not their identity. Maybe they're gonna be different this week. But so far, I'm not gonna look away. I think Michael Parsons and Marcus Lawrence gonna be a big problem, and if they have a day, this game's gonna be like last week. I hate to say it, but that is the key to the game. So if they somehow create or contain these guys, they'll do better. But I think, Victor, you could counter here and how they could minimize the damage from these guys, right?
Yeah, you led me right into it, especially when you talked about running the ball. We saw what they did with the two tight end sets. They were able to run the ball with that set. You have to use some of those sets here. For me, it's run the ball, run it, and run it often. I get that the offensive line is banged up here, and but McVay's too clever of offense. Like McVay is known as a genius play caller, right? So use that creativity that you have to get the run going. You have to run the ball here to offset that speed that the Cowboys have. Don't just use. I love the fact that against the Niners they use some of those the screen game, but involve the running backs here. Like
Yeah,
instead of just using wide receiver screens, use the running backs in order for you to negate some of that speed that Dallas has in that front seven. So if you're able to run the ball, use those running backs, get those running backs involved. For me, the key is not just that's why I talked about earlier when we were talking about X factors was the receivers. You also want to get for here, it's the running backs. Get Cam Akers and Daryl Henderson going. Try to establish the run and not and make that your identity. As you were talking about identity, run the ball, make that your identity. Hey, if you're gonna go out losing running the ball, because at least that's gonna negate some of that pressure that you're gonna get, and you don't leave your offensive lineman and Stafford, you know, uh, you know, getting hurt or
yeah.
something. But yeah, that's the way that for me that's the key. It's use the running game and use it
Yeah.
often.
When your offensive line is hurting and they have to face these dominant pass rushers, the worst you could do is be one dimensional. You got to help out with the running game. So, Victor, I think that's a great point. Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson were very quiet against the 49ers. And when that defense is going and you're so predictable, you're going to call out plays and sniff it out, like Ufanga said on the when you smell a rat or whatever he said. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're too predictable and they're not helping their quarterback or their offensive line by not running the football.
All right, let's get to the fun part of the show here where we go over the spread of the game. You texted me like before we got on. I had no idea what the spread was, and you told me that the Rams were 5.5 point favorites, and we were both like, really? Like I was shocked. So how are you seeing this game, and why are the Rams 5.5 point favorites in your mind?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's kind of a high spread. Like I was actually looking at the other line just to see like does the home team get a lot more points nowadays? And then I saw that the 49ers are hosting the Panthers, I think, and they're only -3. The Panthers, the -3 against the Panthers, and the Cowboys are 5.5 against the Cowboys, who are much better than the Panthers. It doesn't make it make sense. It didn't make sense. Maybe it's like an unknown about the quarterback. Maybe that comes in or Cooper Rush. There's something there that's holding up this line. It just doesn't feel right. Like I could accept maybe -3.5 for the Rams. That's cool. They're the home team, spot on. But 5.5 seems like a lot. So as you could tell, I'm kind of leaning for for the Cowboys plus 5.5. So I think the Cowboys look very similar to the 49ers, like I already mentioned. And maybe I think you give the edge to the 49ers because of the coaching staff. But I think in terms of weapons and talent on the field, I think the Cowboys have better talent because they have Micah Parsons and Nick Bosa. Oh, there's DeMarcus Lawrence. They have Trayvon Diggs, a great cornerback. So CeeDee Lamb is playing great, like a Deebo Samuel. So they're very similar. And Cooper Rush and Jimmy G are similar too. So I don't know. It's one of these things that really surprised me at the Cowboys, and I get a little more love here by Vegas.
Yeah, I think part of the reasoning, like I was trying to think after you asked me that question, and I'm like, well, Mike McCarthy isn't as good of a coach as Shanahan. So everybody's talked about that. We know that that's part of it. The other thing is the Cowboys haven't like some of their wins haven't been against great teams. I mean, they beat the Commanders and they beat the Giants, not great teams. Yeah, they have a good
Yeah,
record, both of them, but they're not great. I mean, I thought they were going to lose once Stack went down. I thought they were going to lose some of these games, as Tyler also brought up. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is the game where, the other thing I was thinking about is Sean McVay does really well against other coaches except for Shanahan, or Belichick. So maybe that's where they're thinking, okay, McVay's going to make the adjustment here, kind of like what we saw against the Cardinals, and he's gonna be. But like, then we go back to the whole thing, like, yeah, but Dallas has a really good defense, but do they though? Like, do we know because they face Daniel Jones and they face Carson Wentz? So maybe
they
Vegas
faced
knows
the
something we
Bengals. I
don't.
know the Bengals have their issues, but that's a quality win, I think.
Yeah. So maybe that's what, and they played them at home. They're going on the road, but are we expecting the Cowboy fans to take over SoFi? I don't
I,
know. That's another.
I think
Is it going to
so.
be a true home game? We don't know. So that's another thing
That's a
too.
good point,
So
actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think I'm ready, Victor. I think people could tell by my mood here where I'm going. But is it that time
By the
already?
way, I would take the
Oh,
Cowboys here as well
yeah, take the points.
take the points, and then I for some reason I think it's gonna go over. Like I don't think it's
Hmm,
gonna I think it's gonna be over 42 points.
I
Uh
don't know. I don't trust this.
I'll take
I don't trust the
yeah, so
Rams offense
I'm
right
gonna
now.
take the over for this one, and then I'll take the
Yeah.
Cowboys in the points.
I'll take the
But
under.
let's get to our predictions here. Go ahead and start us off because I kind of I want to
Yeah.
hear what you have to
No,
say,
I
where
I
you're
think
gonna
mine
go.
is more obvious. I'd rather hear you go second because I feel like I still don't know where you're leaning, but they've shown me who they are, Victor. I know this team now. The identity has been 4 games. I've seen enough. It's been the same show, the one man show. Cooper Cup, a top heavy defense. That if Jalen Ramsey is not having a big game, then they're gonna struggle. Aaron Donald's been pretty quiet. Like I saw like this crazy metric from one of the analytics guy on ESPN where like Donald always dominates in the interior. Uh, I don't know. Is it Fernando trying to get on the show right now? Sorry,
Yeah,
it's
he's
throwing me off here. Trying to mess up here. But yeah, I think Chris Jones from the Chiefs finally surpassed him in the metric. So maybe Aaron Donald a little down there, but just to not go on a tangent there, you know, maybe you're on to something. Maybe it's gonna be a high scoring game, but it's a predictable game for me. I think Michael Parsons and Demarcus Lawrence are gonna have a big game. I if Cooper Rush is not having a turnover, making the turnovers, and maybe this could be a game where the defense finally frustrates Cooper. You bring a good point with the quality opponents that they faced. I just don't really see much from the edge rushers, like I mentioned here, to create a lot of pressure on Cooper. His offensive line is very good. Tony Pollard looks good. Ezekiel, we didn't even mention the running back. Ezekiel Elliott is good enough, but they're a really well balanced team. So and the Rams don't have balance. So with that, I'll stop ranting here, and I'm gonna finally go against the Rams this year, and I will take the Cowboys. What's a good score here? I went under, right? So I guess I will go, man. Okay, 20-17 Cowboys.
No, nice. Actually, I think it's going to be a 3-point game, but I think it's going to be 24-21 for the Rams. I just think,
There
like,
we go.
like I said, there's something with Sean McVeigh. I think Sean McVeigh is going to make. I believe in him in terms of making the adjustments here. I think he's a better coach going up against McCarthy. He'll make the adjustments against that Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn has revitalized that defense. I remember there was a lot of jokes with the Cowboys and how bad that defense used to be. Doesn't it, the Cowboys, their defense is the best thing. Like their offense isn't as good as the defense anymore. And I think what's making them win games is that defense. And I just think the Rams, are going to make the adjustments and they're going to pull out a 24-21 win against the Cowboys. It's not a high scoring game. There's still, I mean, how many games have they scored over 20 points? Was it just once
Yeah,
against
the Atlanta game.
the Atlanta game, and that's it? And where was it? It was at home.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting them to come out better. Now, the one thing that kind of kept me from not picking the Rams here was that quote question: is it going to be a true home game? Because we don't know if the Cowboys are going to take over. I have faith in Ram fans that they're going to show up. They won't be their tickets,
Uh,
but I know how expensive things are here in LA, so I
yeah,
wouldn't blame
yeah.
them if they sold their tickets, especially to Cowboy fans that are
Mm-mm.
gonna pay 2 to 3 times whatever that ticket is worth.
I never knock fans for making their money. If you got to make money and people want to dish
Oh,
out 4 times the value, go for it. But yes, that could be a factor, Victor. And yeah, and good points on the Mike McCarthy versus Sean McVay battle. But I don't think Sean McVay has all his chess pieces. When you're very thin, you can't make it work. And when you have Michael Parsons over there, it's going to be tough. And then I really like what Dan Quinn has done. Like you brought up a good point to Tyler, where he's not playing cover three. He's a coach who evolved. Coaches got to evolve, and he's done that. So maybe Dan Quinn is saving the Cowboys right now, Victor. But I'm glad we went different ways again. But for me, I'm kind of like, why didn't I do it the other way around? Because the road team against San Francisco, you picked it correctly. I'm going against the Rams at home. So again, maybe I'm in the bad spot here.
yeah. No, I mean it's good, man. Like we can't agree every time.
Yeah.
So this is good for
I can't pick the
and we
Rams every week too.
yeah, and we gave our points, man. Like,
Yep.
hey, this is what we're giving each other our point of views, and this is where we're coming from. So hey, we'll see how they actually put it on the field on Sunday. So and
Yeah.
how it comes out.
Yeah, should be a good matchup week 5. I think we're right at the 1 hour mark. Good timing here. It's time to go, but just want to give a quick plug that if you want something to do after the game, we have a post game show usually about an hour after the game, sometimes an hour 15. I'm working the locker room, I'm doing a story, but then I get on Twitter, on YouTube Live here of House of Horns, and I answer questions from Victor and hopefully from you guys. Leave a comment. And then we do a pretty fun post-game show. I thought the one last week was pretty good, even though I had my whisper voice at Levi Stadium. But it turned out pretty well. So make sure to check out the post-game show, YouTube Live. An hour, maybe an hour and a half, an hour 15 after the game. Look out for it. I will tweet it out. And just subscribe here and you get a notification. But other than that, Victor, anything else? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just gonna say, make sure you're following him and getting all the. He's got great videos from the post game in the locker room. I mean, those things do well for us, so make sure you're following him. And yeah, he's got. Go ahead and get us out of here.
Yeah, I don't know if you hear like a random noise in the background. That it means it's time for the cats to eat. The cats didn't make an appearance in this show, Victor, so I think they're learning. But it's time for dinner for them. So on that note, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.